Well, guten Morgen, Cam.
Hello. How are you this fine gray morning?
Yeah, about that. It's cold.
This just in. In January, the north of the country is cold. You know what's funny is we always think of like, well, I do anyways. Like, oh man, we're so far north, we're so far north, and it's like 95% of Canada is northern, more northern than we are. And like we're like these southern trolls, right? It's just I play Fortnite with a guy who is lives in Manitoba but works on the pipelines in northern Saskatchewan.
Right.
And so he's telling me he's out working and it's like -40 when he's out working on the pipelines. And they're, I mean, they have all the gear and everything, but they're still out there on snowmobiles. And I was like, that's just, he's like, oh yeah, where you're at? He goes, that's like, April for us. Man, it's all about perspective, I suppose.
So what's hilarious about that, and this just shows that you're getting old, as you told that story 2 weeks ago. So
did I?
Yeah, that's all right. I'm sure I've retold stories on the show before, but I probably only know that because number one, you told me the story and I know it, but I also had to go through and do production on the episode last week or the last time, so do the editing.
All right, well, I'm gonna start scouting retirement homes because apparently my brain's done.
Yeah, so that's the third time I've heard that story.
It's been real, guys. I'll just gonna go get my robe and start playing shuffleboard.
Yep. Actually, I got to level with you. It's 23 degrees here, so actually it's warmed up some. So it was 14 below yesterday morning when I got up. So we're having a heat wave today.
I'm sorry, I already forgot what you said. What?
Very nice.
Oh man. All right. Well, why don't you start talking? Because I'm just gonna sit here and wallow in my own.
So we're not going to talk about this right yet because we're going to do a little bit of follow up quick. But on the episode today, we're going to talk about a subject that I know you'll be excited to talk about. We are going to talk about Obsidian.
Bum, 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 bum. Finally.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it a little bit before I have, but I feel like it's going to be more of a dialogue this time, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, because I got into it this last week. And the topic that I have right before that is going to lead into the Obsidian conversation. But it's cool. I like it. So, but we'll save that for our main topic. But first, we have some news, and we have to wait for I have to edit this up. It's time for Predictee's update. All right, so there was some rumor news this last week on one of your predictees. The AR VR headset has been pushed from a June announcement to a fall announcement. Now, to remind the listeners, your pick reads as follows: AR/MR for mixed reality. A headset announced but does not ship until 2022. So
no, it does not ship in 2022. So not until 2022.
Does not ship in 2022. Yeah. My cat's be in trouble here. Hold on.
So I have two initial thoughts about this announcement.
Sure.
The first is they're pushing the announcement back, which means there's no way it's going to ship, or they're pushing it back to the fall so they can announce it and ship it on the same day, or like announce that it's shipping a week later. So I'm 50. I'm torn on how to feel about this. My first reaction was yes, like this is good news. Mm-hmm. And then after thinking about it, I was like, oh crap, maybe they're pushing it back so they can announce it and saying it's going to ship before the holidays. So there's not much of a gap between the announcement and the ability. So I am officially torn on this update to my prediction. Now it is a rumor, so it could be completely wrong, but these things tend to have chunks of truth buried in them. So I'm a little nervous that I might be getting this one wrong.
I think that it's plausible that we probably won't see anything ship before the end of the year. It feels to me like they're going to have to push this out to developers first. Now, that's where we could get some clarification on this. When you say it won't ship, now, are you talking about a consumer
Yes.
model, or are we talking about like a developer kit won't ship?
Consumer model.
Okay, so I'm going to make that note in here because at the end of I don't trust myself to remember, first off. And secondly, we're going to end up fighting about it. So
Hear ye, the First Amendment to the 2022 Predictees, henceforth ratified.
There were a couple other ones.
The 22nd year of our Lord, 2022.
There was a couple other ones in here that I thought, you know what, this bears clarification, but we'll move on for.
Well, we can have good faith negotiations throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the fun thing about the way that we did the Predictees is that we can come back to this periodically as there's news and things too.
Well, and so here's the way I view it: is if we allow ourselves to have some good faith negotiations throughout the year, we can then be absolutely cutthroat, brutal, merciless when it comes to deciding if you get the point or not, because we've had the whole year to have the good faith negotiations.
Yeah,
and that'll be more fun.
All right,
we can fall on our swords at the end of the year if we need to.
So I texted you about this a couple weeks ago and wanted to follow up that I was going to quit watching wrestling for what I referred to as a trial basis. I wasn't 100%.
How much you have to pay for that subscription?
Right. That one was free actually, and it saved me. Yeah. But I made this choice based on a couple of different factors. First off, just time commitment. You know, there was a time where I was watching Raw and NXT and SmackDown and AEW Dynamite and Rampage just to like stay in the loop as to what was all going on in both of the companies. And then I scaled back, got rid of all the AEW stuff, got a little bit to the point where like I wasn't watching as much NXT, so I was just kind of focusing on Raw and SmackDown. And I settled into the fact that that the wrestling was just not really offering me a whole lot. And yes, it was a time to kind of sit down and turn my brain off and just watch something, you know, stupid and manly. But I also realized that the product just wasn't very good either, you know, and I kind of settled into that idea, that always hoping that it was going to get better, and then, you know, the wish casting things to happen that I really wanted to see happen and then be disappointed. And I think they call that fantasy booking. I think that's what you refer to it as. And then sitting back and realizing the guys that book this stuff aren't as smart as I am, apparently. Because they could really make us happy by doing a certain thing, and then they do something completely different that makes everybody upset. Which I think is a Vince thing anyway. He'd prefer to like people not be able to guess what he's doing. So one of the benefits that I've gotten from not watching the wrestling is I have gotten more time, and
I would say a significant chunk.
Yeah, and so I'm able to, you know, do a little bit more Bible study, which has been good. I've been able to do a little bit more work on my computer and like diving into something like Obsidian and do more study on that, be able to watch some videos, kind of learn how to do different things. You know, it's been good. And it's not that it's been, you know, life changing necessarily, but it's given me some cool opportunities that I didn't have, or that I wasn't affording myself before, is probably a better way to put it. So yeah. And I've been watching more SpongeBob. So that's good.
Oh man, you had me convinced right up until that last sentence.
So I have to tell you, that was kind of a joke, but I have to tell you that my wife got called off of work today, so she didn't have to go to work. So she's upstairs. So if you're banging around, that's her, and I'll yell at her later. She went with a friend to go do a thing this morning. I won't go into it, but she left at like 6:30 this morning, and so I was able to get up at a leisurely pace. I had no restrictions on my time, because really, like, we record at 10 o'clock, so it's not like I have to really worry about hurrying up and getting out of bed to come record. At least I don't, because I'm usually up by 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I got up about 7:30, and went down and made myself breakfast and made coffee. My wife made breakfast this morning. I just went in and heated it up. Be honest, because she'll yell at me. But then I sat down and turned on some SpongeBob and had just a really nice leisurely morning, just sitting around the house and enjoying a nice, quiet, leisurely morning. So it was good. But SpongeBob was definitely a part of that. So I probably would have ended up watching SmackDown this morning if I was watching wrestling. But
there you go.
But one of the things that has been a benefit for me out of not watching the wrestling is being able to learn a little bit more about apps and stuff like this. So this is where I do the really nice radio segue into talking about Obsidian, because that's something that I've been able to dig into. And I had a reason for doing this, and that's because we're getting ready as a group of guys at the church to do a study on Watchman Nee's book, The Spiritual Man. And I thought, this is a really good opportunity for me to try out a good note-taking system. And so I thought, Cam talks about Obsidian, so I'm going to dig in and see if I like it. And so far, so good. So do you want to talk a little bit about Obsidian and what it is and how you use it?
Yeah. So Obsidian is a note-taking app that is at its root a folder full of markdown documents. It is a filter for a folder. So in reality, I can take any of those markdown documents in that folder and open them in any other app that can open Markdown, which is like a lot of different options. So you're not necessarily tied to Obsidian in the future for most of its features. Now, it is one of the apps that has fully embraced and led the charge of this whole backlinking and graph deal, where I can, in OneNote, put double brackets around a word or a phrase, and that either creates a new note with that or connects to an existing note. And so in the case of Bible study, Obsidian becomes incredibly powerful with this concept of linking notes. So like I have an entire section in my Obsidian. It's a folder called Biblical Themes, and there's probably like 50 to 60 themes or places or people that I have individual notes on. Like, for example, I have a note on covenant. And so like on that note, I will have, a definition for what covenant is, why it's important, that sort of stuff. And then every time I come across covenant being talked about or happening in the Bible, I can link that part of it back to that page. And so I can have a running list of the places in the Bible where that subject is talked about. So if I were teaching it, or if I ever want to do more in-depth study on it, I have pretty much everything I need there as far as what the Bible says. And then I can bring in outside sources like commentaries or podcasts or articles or books as well. And that's the part too that can be very beneficial, is if you do Readwise or Matter or things like that, where you can take your highlights from books and articles, you can also add those to your Obsidian vault. And then you've got more sources that you can link together to build this knowledge base, this library full of things. And it's something that only improves with usage and with time. I have the entire Bible in here, and I did it the hard way because I wanted the ESV version in here, and they don't have a open API. So I had a PDF version of their Bible, And I went through and I copy and pasted every single verse of the Bible into Obsidian. And I have been working through that, breaking it down into folders by book and then by chapter over the last year, because I wanted that specific translation, because that's the one that I use. There are other options, which Mitch, you can fill them in on later with your setup for how you're doing that. That's much more quick. I think it's like a click of one or two buttons and it's all in there for you. So I'm definitely doing it the hard way. But it's fully customizable. There are themes. You can, if you know CSS or JavaScript, you can do crazy stuff, or it can just be a simple note-taking app. Here's what I want to do. They have daily notes. So if like, here's what I have to get done today. Here's a few things that I thought about today. So you could use it as a journal. And you can keep this all on your computer, either locally, or you can use iCloud Drive to sync it across your devices, or you can pay for their service to do the same thing for you. So it's as private as you want it to be. But there's also a publish option, which means you can publish certain pages to the internet on an Obsidian website. So like if I wanted to publish some of my pages about the Bible and things that I've realized, I can do that, or I can keep it all private. So it is at its base a plain text markdown note-taking app, but we haven't even talked about the plugins, but it's a whole world unto itself that's very fun to explore. And there's a lot of really cool people that you can learn from online to do crazy things with it if you want to do it. So yeah, that's the Blitz version of Obsidian.
And what I've really loved about it is it's as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Yes. So like you said, you can simply write just gather your notes together in it, or you can enable workspaces and have like all your spaces configured and change from one space to another, which I really love that feature. Because right now the spiritual man study that we're doing, the first section of it goes into the tripartite man, soul, spirit, body, and goes through and makes that argument. Well, so I have 4 notes for, the first one is the argument for the tripartite man. And then I have a note for the body, spirit, and soul. And so as I'm going through, I'm collecting information about those things into those notes and backlinking everything outside of those notes to that note. And so every time I see spirit or soul or body, I'm selecting that, clicking the double bracket, and it's automatically linking to my spirit note or my soul note or my body note, whatever. So it's making it so simple so that all you have to do is open one note for a certain chapter and just start clicking to pull up all the information that you want to pull up. And you're basically creating your own database of information. Mm-hmm. So it is so powerful.
Yeah. And there's on each note, you can see all of on the right panel, you can go and you can see all of the places that you've already linked to it. But then there's also the section that's called linked mentions. And there's also unlinked mentions. And it's every place in your vault is what they call it. Your whole folder that word or phrase appears that is not linked yet. And you can go through and link them. Now, currently there's not a link all button.
Yeah.
Which when you're doing something like the word Jesus in the Bible would be super convenient to have.
Yeah.
It's like 5,422. It's like I don't want to wear my mouse and my finger out. Like I don't want to get carpal tunnel because I'm clicking Jesus 5,000 times. So a link all button sure would be nice. But yeah, it's really cool. And the other thing, because some people might be like, well, why don't you just take one note, for the argument for it and then just headers? Well, the thing is with that notes, you can do that. You can take each note, the individual notes, and then reference them on the main page. But if you put an exclamation point in front of the double brackets, when you go to the preview mode, it will show all the contents of that page. So you can still accomplish that, but then still have the granular note taking ability as well. So you get the best of both worlds. So you can share that individual note in any way you want, but then you can reference it or surface it in other places as well without having to embed the full text. So you can have one place to go to edit it. And if it's shown in multiple other notes, all those edits and changes will appear in all those other notes as well. So it's super handy in that regard as well.
Right on. So, yeah,
can you tell I'm excited?
I can definitely tell. I do see the benefit of importing the Bible in, even though it's a labor of love to get it in there. But I'm an NASB guy, so I really like the New American Standard, and one of the plugins that I have is called the Bible Reference plugin. And that plugin does not have that version of the Bible in it. It's mostly I think it's just public domain Bibles that they have in there. So you can't pull up your preferred Bible. So
yeah, it's pretty limited to what you can get like for free. I know the guy that I even got the whole Bible study concept in Obsidian from, he uses the Net Bible because it's a free API and you can do a lot with it. But I was like, yeah, that's great, but that's not what I want. So I took his framework, changed it a little bit more to fit my way of working, and then I was like, well, guess we're just gonna work through this.
So now, are you doing like a note by, like, verse by note, or are you doing chapters?
I'm doing chapters because you can reference individual blocks in Obsidian.
Okay.
So I can still reference individual notes, individual verses. And so the way that works is you reference the page, and then there's the caret, little guy, and then you can search for the verse. Like we're studying the Beatitudes tonight at Bible study. So if I wanted to reference like verse 3, I could start searching "Blessed are the poor in spirit," and then that will come up, and I can click it, and it will put us like a little random generated code like X4V 12 BC or whatever, and that's the specific block ID on that page. So it will reference the note for Matthew chapter 5, and then add that caret and block ID code to reference that specific line. Because I put verses on individual lines so that they have their own ID.
Okay.
And that also helps me see. I just have all the verse numbers in a line on the left-hand column, and then the notes. So it structurally it makes my brain happy. I don't have to hunt for like where in the paragraph the verse is. I just know. But that also lends itself to giving me individual IDs for each verse that I can reference individually. So I have the choice to reference the whole chapter or the individual verse very, very easily.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
And then for each book, I have essentially a table of contents page that links to each chapter, but then it's also a place where I can put like book overviews or main concepts or outlines as well. So it kind of serves as like an introduction and table of contents for each book of the Bible. So I've got a couple ways of structuring and handling the data, or the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Did you mention the Kindle before and Kindle integration?
No. I was going to leave that one for you because I don't use that one. So I'm interested to hear from you about it.
So anyone who owns a Kindle knows that you can highlight stuff in the books that you read, and you can make notes to those highlights. And that all gets saved on Amazon servers in My Notes. And you can actually go on Amazon.com and go to your Kindle stuff and view these. They're available online in your account. But what some clever guy did is he created a plugin called Kindle Highlights that will automatically scrape all of your highlights from the Kindle server and pull them into Obsidian. So now if you're studying a book, like we're studying The Spiritual Man, when I highlight stuff in there, I just have to go into Obsidian and sync my Kindle highlights, and they pop up underneath the Spiritual Man book, and I just go in and I can copy and paste those or reference those in notes. And it's super, super convenient. It's very cool. It has a link to the original source of that highlight and everything built right into it, and it gives you the location in the book where that highlight is, and so it's really neat. So I like that a lot because it simplifies my my study. So I can highlight something and then go into Obsidian, sync that up, and copy and paste it into my note, and then actually just start writing my own notes on my observations on that highlight. So
Yeah, it's super cool. So I use the Readwise plugin for that, and Readwise will gets me like Instapaper, Amazon, and iBooks or Apple Books, whatever it's called now, or maybe it's just books. Who knows? Mm-hmm. The orange one that comes with your iPhone or iPad, and it does the same thing. And that also allows me to enter, because I like reading hard copy books because I'm apparently an old soul, as we already mentioned earlier. And that allows me, I can manually enter my highlights there, which I got to be honest, I don't do very often because woof, it's time consuming. But they have like, I can take a picture with my phone and it will OCR it, so it makes it go a little bit faster. But then that collects everything and then dumps it into Obsidian from all those sources. But for sure, if you're just a Kindle person, you got to pay for Readwise. You don't got to pay for that Kindle plugin. So by all means, like that's a total win. And that leads me to this other topic, right? The plugins.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow, are there some crazy ones out there? Yeah. One that I've discovered through Federico at Mac Stories is one called Data View.
Okay.
And this is one where it starts to get a little bit bonkers, because you can start writing JavaScript to do stuff with your notes. And I'm not doing that, but it essentially treats your Obsidian database as a database that you can then build tables or lists or task lists from. And so I used to have this section on my dashboard note, which is just kind of like, hey, start here. I had sections for like, this is what I'm working on. This is stuff that's on my mind. Here's my tasks that are due today. And then here's my general outline of my library laid out in Dewey Decimal because, and that working on section used to be just a manual list of notes that I would add to it. Like these, okay, this is what I'm working on for Bible study. This is what I'm working on for, personal stuff, yada, yada, yada. Now, thanks to Data View, it pulls the 6 most recent documents by their modified date. So essentially the last 6 documents that I've changed. And it just every time I open the dashboard, it just pulls those fresh.
I was wondering how he did that, because I've seen that in his screenshots.
Well, so here's the cool part.
Mm-hmm.
Is he shared how he did that with Data View on the Mac Stories weekly, club membership newsletter that he sends out.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, great. So I did it. I followed his instructions and I did it. I was like, great. But there's notes on here that I don't want to see. I'm on my dashboard. I don't want to see my dashboard note listed on my most recent. 1, because I'm on it, and 2, because it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm viewing this on my dashboard, so I don't need to be able to click on it. The other one I don't want to see is my scratch pad, which is just kind of like my junk file where like, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to write and I'll deal with it later.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the whole point of the note or the app drafts, just a place to write something and then do something with it later. Yeah. That's what my scratch pad is. It's like, I don't want to see those 2 notes on this list. And so I spent more time than I care to admit trying to work through all of Data View's documentation to figure out how the heck can I use a tag to filter those notes from being shown. Like, this should be possible.
Yeah.
And it all came down to the fact that you can't use a tag as a filter. You have to use a tag as a source. And so what I had to say is pull all the notes that don't have this tag as the source, right? And so I put the tag hidden on these two files, and boom, now my 6 most recent modified documents ignores my scratch pad and my dashboard. They will never show on that list, which is super cool. And so I actually wrote on the Mac Stories Discord when I was trying to figure out, hey, anyone know how to do this? And I got no response. So I kept working on it. And then I posted my results, and I came back the next day, and there was 2 star votes on it, which means it's trying to get on the starboard, which is like the really cool stuff from John Voorhees and Federico Vitici. And then a message from Federico that was like, this is really useful. Can I link this in the next Mac Stories Weekly?
Yeah, that's
like,
awesome.
Yeah. So lo and behold, yesterday when the email or the newsletter went out, there's always a section at the bottom of cool stuff that's happening in the Discord. And like of the 5, user Cam Brennan found a really useful feature to hide stuff from, and there's a link to it. And I was like, I'm Mac Stories, kind of not famous, but it's really cool. It's really cool that like he saw it, was like, wow, that's useful. I'm going to share it with everybody that gets this newsletter. So
yeah,
that was pretty neat.
Very cool. So,
but yeah, the plugins, all that to say, that there's plugins for all matter of usefulness and insanity that you can do.
Well, I'm definitely going to install this plugin, and I'll play around with this later. So very cool. All right. Yeah, for me, like when I first started with this, one thing that really confused me was the fact that they have core plugins separate from community plugins, which totally makes sense to me now. But I was in community plugins looking for themes, and it's like, yeah, because I just wanted it to look a little different and make it look a little bit more Mac-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, is it under appearance?
Yeah,
not it. Huh? Oh yeah, there is a manage themes under appearance.
Yep.
So I went in and found a theme that I liked and threw it in there. And
which one are you running?
I want to say it's the Big Sur theme.
Yeah, I have that one. I don't have it installed. I ran it for a little while. The other 2 that I would throw out there, besides the Big Sur aesthetic one, are
take that back. Obsidian Nord is the one that I'm using.
Okay. The 2 that I would suggest you look at are Minimal.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy powerful. And then Primary, which is, I run Primary on my work laptop because I use Obsidian for work too. And then I run Minimal on my personal computer. But the reason I use it at work is I use the daily notes to track all of my meetings. So I take notes for all of my meetings. And so on my daily notes, I link to all of those notes, and then any stuff that comes up for projects. And then when I go to those notes, I can see what day I had the meeting for that note on. And I always put the date there too. So in my meeting notes, whether they're one-on-one or teams, I have a running list of all the meetings I've had by date and then reference back to the daily note. So I can see what else I was working on the day that I had that meeting if I ever need to. And because Obsidian has a global search, I can just type in like, I think we talked about this topic, and I can see all of the notes for that. And then I can easily find the context around, because as we've established, my brain forgets things. And so since I started a new job at my company, and I have a lot more meetings now with a lot of people that I've never worked before, I was like, this is a great opportunity to use Obsidian for work. And then I also have a library document that links to all of our important files. So like our PowerPoint slide decks, our SharePoint files. So I don't have to figure out, okay, what SharePoint library, it's all linked. So I have like a running document, and I've been there for 2 weeks, and there's already like 50 different documents on there, Power BI report, like all the stupid corporate crap. But now it's like, oh, I just have it all in one place along with my notes. Helps organize my 9 to 5 in a way that I've never had before. And it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just for academic research, though it certainly can be. There's like practical uses for it too, in a work setting.
Well, and I went through and made a task list. But the task lists that I made were the Star Wars books list. So I have all the ones that I've read checked off now.
Nice.
And I have them all split up by where they fall in the timeline. And it's like I'm looking at it right now, and there are 2 books that I haven't read that fall previous to A New Hope. There's a third one in there that I got to double check, but I think I read that one. So once I've read those 2 books, then I'm pretty much done until they release some new books for that. But I love the ease of use with the like using Markdown.
Mm-hmm.
I've never figured out Markdown before. You know, I've tried using it in the past, and now that this kind of almost forces a type of, I don't even know if this is Markdown at its base, you know, or if this is like a modified version of Markdown. Because I looked up some documentation and there was some stuff that didn't line up. But at any rate, the learning this stuff now and being able to use it more fluidly really is cool. I like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you can have tasks that just live on your notes,
mm-hmm.
or you can use a plugin to sync your notes with Todoist because they have an open API. And so like on my dashboard, I've got 2 Todoist sort of plugin blocks that say today and overdue. It shows all of my tasks that are either overdue or due today, and then upcoming, anything that's due within the next 3 days. And then if I check it off in Todoist and refresh it here, it goes away. If I check it off here and refresh it, it sends it to Todoist and checks it off. But like, so you have options, right? If you just want to have like a book list, like you do living in Obsidian, that doesn't have to be like that's exactly useful, right? Mm-hmm. But you also have the option of pulling things in if you want that back and forth sort of. So like, again, it's as simple as you want it to be, or there's just a world of complexity should you choose to explore. It is a tool that is malleable to what you want it to be and how you want to use it for the most part.
Yeah, and I have not dug into it yet, but I do have that Todoist plugin. So
yeah, it's fun.
So yeah, this could be an obsession for me for a while. So getting this working the way that I want it to. Good times. Yeah, and I did create a dashboard myself, and then looking at Federico's dashboard and thinking to myself, gosh, how is he doing all this stuff? So I'm glad that you pointed out that data view, because that'll come in handy. And I'm seriously considering signing up for the Mac Stories club just to get access to some of that stuff, at least for a little bit, just to be able to access.
Well, yeah, and you have access to the full archive too. So every shortcut that he's ever made, every app that they've ever written about, like, you have full access to all of that the second you sign up.
Oh goodness. And it's like $5 a month, right?
Yeah. So even if you're there for a month and just go buck wild, that's totally fine. And you get access to the Discord too. And there's all sorts of really interesting stuff going on in the Discord.
Because he's got some shortcuts that I want to dig into too.
He's got some bonkers ones, man.
I've wanted to learn shortcuts, but I've like, he started talking about some of the shortcuts that he has for Obsidian, and I'm like, okay, yeah, where do I find that? And I couldn't find it on the website, so maybe it's in the Club Mac Stories.
Yeah, he's pretty good at finding the balance between what he gives away for free, which is a lot, and then what he reserves for club members.
Yeah. Because he talked about some on Connected this last week that I was curious about. So
Yeah, I think it's $5 well spent, and I enjoy him and the team at Mac Stories, and it's yeah, highly recommend it. And if anyone listening hasn't gone to macstories.net, you're welcome. Go check it out. It is a wealth of knowledge and fun.
And we'll see you in a couple of years once you're done reading it all. So good stuff. All right. Well, I don't really have much more to say about that. Do we want to move on to what's delighting us today?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's delighting you today, Cam?
2 words, Mitch. Beat Saber.
So I saw in your Instagram story the other day a picture of you wearing your Oculus Quest. I'm assuming it's the Oculus Quest. It's not
the Quest 2. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hilarious because there's no way to make that look good.
Yeah, my hair was all like smushed and awkward, and I had to just you look kind of like an ogre with a giant blindfold on. Mm-hmm. But the caption there was, and I posted, I don't know, it's January 22nd now. I probably posted it like 4 or 5 days ago because I got it on Tuesday. Yeah. And the caption I wrote was, well, 2022, it's been real. See you fools in 2023. I'm just done. I'm out. See ya. I'm clocking out for the year. But Beat Saber, have you seen and or played this, Mitch?
I have heard of it. I have seen just really short videos of what it looks like, but I have not played it.
It is so much fun.
Yeah.
And I say this as a 35-year-old dad. It's a blast and I love it. And I'm sure I look super awkward playing it. But the concept is, anyone that's familiar with Guitar Hero or a Rock Band, you've got the notes or the things that you have to hit at the right time. And instead of a guitar and a set of notes, you have 2 lightsabers and there are boxes coming at you in 4 different lanes. And you have to strike them in a certain direction based on the arrows as they come. And your lightsabers are different colors. So you have to match the color of the box to the color of the lightsaber. And there are like bombs and there are walls that you have to avoid, kind of like a Japanese game show. And it is so much fun. I played for 2 hours the other night. I was sweating and I woke up and my arms were sore like I had worked out. Yep. Like my muscles hurt. And I don't know if that says something about the game or me or both. But like both. I was smelly because I was like, and I was like playing on like hard and expert and like getting like really into it. Mm-hmm. And I know I look like an absolute idiot doing it, but I don't care because it's a ton of fun and there's a bunch of music and you can buy extra packs by different artists. Mm-hmm. So being the 35-year-old white boy that I am, I downloaded the Skrillex pack that had all his songs from like 10 years ago on it. Like it's not age appropriate at all. Oh wait, it is. So it was it's super fun, and they have like all different kinds of modes that you can do. So like you can make it really, really, really easy. So like if I can get the Oculus to fit my kid's head, she could play. But it is it's a ton of fun, and turns out it helps with your cardio a little bit if you play hard enough. Because you can't help but like dance a little bit while you're doing it. Because all of the boxes, you're like hitting the rhythms and sometimes doing the syncopations and that sort of stuff. No, I not to bob and weave.
It looks like a ton of fun. I would probably get that game and probably play it every once in a while. Right now, my rotator cuff is gone from work, but so I probably couldn't play it right now. But I would really have fun playing it, I'm sure. But like we were talked about on the last episode, like my killer app for like the Oculus Quest or just VR in general is to have something that you can have unique experiences, to be able to travel the world, to do different things. And
I rode a bobsled down a bobsled run. That was fun. It was a little weird though.
Yeah.
And then there was one, it was like a zip line over the forest in like Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
It freaked me out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because you're like super high. And then Kennedy was like, I want to try. And I was like, ah. And she was like, oh, this is so cool. You know, she's looking all around. And I was like, oh, you fear nothing, child.
Yep. So it's not real, man.
What was that?
It's not real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I highly recommend it. And so Oculus has an app on your phone because obviously no one else can. It's a standalone device. It's not hooked up to a computer like the HTC Vive was, or some of the other VRs that you can like see on the screen what's going on. But they have an app for your phone, and theoretically, I can then cast that from my phone to my TV, so that if we were having like a party, people could see what's going on. And that's the other thing too about this is it's completely self-contained, and it's not big. It's not big at all.
Yeah.
But because it's self-contained, I can just take it wherever I want. So like when we're having game nights at other people's houses, we can, mix in the Oculus with the board games or like the, what's the one that we like to play that's on the TV? Oh my gosh. Oh, Jackbox.
Jackbox. Yeah, I was trying to think of it too. All I could think of was Jackpacks or something. And I knew that wasn't right.
And then there's another one we do. It's Pictionary on the iPad, and so you draw on the iPad, and it shows up on the TV, and you pass it around.
Yeah,
pretty fun. So, anyways, good times.
Super cool. So,
what about you, sir?
Well, as is my tradition, I've been fighting with myself to figure out which one of these to talk to you about. But I will go with the more expensive of the two for this week. And that's my new bed.
Mitch, I thought I was the old man. Here you are talking about your bed is what delights you.
Dude, I got 10 years on you, man. So we had our old bed was given to us when we got married. It was a queen size bed, and that was 20 years ago. So it has served its purpose, and it was time to replace it. And I didn't realize until we laid on this bed. We got a Sleep Number bed. And I didn't realize until I laid on a Sleep Number bed how uncomfortable the bed that we had was. It was just like, that's the bed we slept on. It is what it is. Oh my gosh. We've had this bed since the 22nd of December, I think. So about a month now. And all the pain that I was dealing with on a regular basis has pretty much gone away. Nice. I deal with a little bit of pain in my my SI joint on the left side of my pelvis. And I've been dealing with a little bit of rotator cuff pain from just work, just wearing out my rotator cuff. But beyond that, like I used to wake up with pain in my knees and in my back, and just like I would wake up some mornings and every joint in my body hurt. And it would take, a little while once I got out of bed to get everything stretched and get everything comfortable again. And not anymore. And when we were doing our research looking into these beds, I mean, we looked at Casper mattresses. We looked at just a lot of different things, and we decided to go into the Sleep Number store to see what they offered. And when it came right down to it, the Sleep Number beds were so nice. And the lady at the Sleep Number store, and I know it's her job to sell me something, but when she was talking about normal mattress shopping, she's like, well, you go into a store and you lay down on a bed, and somehow you're supposed to figure out that this bed is comfortable for you by laying on it for 5 minutes. So what the Sleep Number bed offers that other beds don't is you can adjust it whenever you want. So if you're not comfortable with a soft bed anymore, and you were when you got the bed, you can firm it up a little bit. You can soften it up a little bit more. And what it really comes down to is like, if you lose weight, your sleep number is probably going to change, because the whole idea of a sleep number bed is to alleviate hot spots. So, if your hip and your shoulder, that's typically where your hot spots are going to be, especially for guys, because we tend to have broader shoulders. So those hot spots are going to be like on my shoulder and on my hip, and then they just get sore, and then everything around your middle starts to sag in a way that makes your back sore and stuff like that. But what the sleep number bed does is it's constantly adjusting to where your body is sitting. So if you're laying on your back, it's going to do what they have responsive air in the mattresses. So if you go from laying on your back to laying on your side, it adjusts where it's giving you support automatically. And it is so amazing. Like the funny thing that my wife and I have gotten into the habit of doing is we'll lay down in the bed when we first get in, because the responsive air has filled up all the air chambers to our sleep number. So now you lay down and and it kind of feels like you're just laying on a normal mattress. And within about 30 seconds to a minute, all of a sudden you feel yourself start sinking into the mattress. And it just like forms all around you and like kind of cups you in, and it's just so comfortable. And then if you move to your side, it might take a few minutes, but it adjusts to where your hot spots are and like just cradles you in so that you don't really have any of those hot spots. And it's just, man, it is so comfortable, and it's great. I really, really enjoy my sleep number bed.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that I got clarification on that these were two separate things that you wrote down.
Yeah.
Because I thought the second thing was a description or model name of the first one. And I was like, first of all, TMI, and secondarily, that's a bit presumptuous, don't you think?
So I'll just go ahead and talk about the second one too. But to put this, pun intended, to put this subject to rest, we got the adjustable base. It's a king size bed, so it's a bigger bed than we had before, and it's a split top. So the two sides of the top can adjust individually, so you can lean them up, you can put them down. My wife loves the partner snore feature. It's a button that she can push in the app, because this is all app connected. So she can push a button in the app called partner snore, and it lifts my side of the bed up a little bit. So she's woken me up with that a couple of times now, but otherwise she usually just pokes me. But and it's got heated feet area too, which I was like, that sounds really gimmicky, but man, it is so nice to get into a warm bed. It's nice and warm down there. And last night I threw some wool socks on because it was really, really cold in the bedroom. But normally I don't have to do that. I just get into bed and it's nice, and the covers are nice and warm, because there's an automatic routine that you can set that it will automatically warm up the bed before you come to bed. So it's I'm spoiled. It's good. So just because you brought it up, the other thing that I put in here was the Busybox.
So listeners can understand why I was a little confused. It says sleep number bed / Busybox, and I was very concerned about where that conversation might lead.
So it's almost 2 years ago. It was just after the pandemic hit and everybody was starting to work from home and stuff like that. I saw on Kickstarter, is it Kickstarter or Indiegogo? It was Indiegogo. This Busybox sign. Now, I have for a very long time wanted to get just an on-air sign for my studio.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not cheap. All it is a freaking light inside of a box with a filter on it that says on air. And yet they charge like $100 for these things.
A captive audience.
Yeah. So what I decided when I saw this is the perfect thing for me, and the whole idea behind the box is that you can put it on your door. You can put it above the door, wherever, and you can set what it says. So there's two different kinds of the busy boxes. There's the standard version, and then there's the digital version. The digital version allows you, it's basically just an LCD screen that allows you to set it to whatever you want it to. You can put pictures on it, you can put emoji in it, you can do whatever you want with that. The standard version just has like your little plastic sleeves that go in, or the little plastic bits that go in that have the messages on them, and then you can customize the light color behind it. So I got the digital version because that's the one that I wanted. And it allows me to use the Busybox app to set a bunch of different presets, which I'll put up on the screen here so you can see. You can see the active one right now says recording. So I have my Busybox up in the bedroom, or up in the living room. Nice. So that when my wife's up there, she can see what I'm doing down here and know if she needs to be quiet, or if she can come down and talk to me about something or whatever. So I set up one that's a clock. So it's just, we can have that on all the time. I do have an on air feature. I have an on a call. I also put one in there for breakfast. That was just a fun little thing with the emoji for eggs, bacon, and coffee. I have one that says in studio. So if she wants to come find me, she knows where I am. I can put that on there. And then I put one on last night that I just put on that was funny. It says busy, and then it's got a glass of whiskey next to it. but it, it's a really cool little box that allows you to communicate with other people that, hey, I'm recording right now. If you could just be kind of keep it down. Which my wife never has a problem with that. Just communicating that with her. And then when we get done recording, I can pop in and just put in studio or something like that and change the sign so she knows that I'm done recording. So
nice.
I like it. I think it cost me I think it was $100 and maybe $50 for to fund it. I don't remember. It was almost 2 years ago that I funded it. But they got hit with the chip shortages, and then they had issues with getting the LCD signs and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's a Busybox, and I'll go ahead and throw a link in the show notes. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, you can do so. Again, they have the two different types. There's the just the plastic covers over a colored LCD panel, basically. That does.
I assume that one's cheaper.
That one's cheaper. That one goes for $129, and that should be readily available right now. They're still having supply issues with the digital version, and right now the digital version is selling for $299. So I think I probably got it for more like $180 or something like that for the pre-order. But that's still in pre-order right now, so that's taking a little bit longer. Do you want to take a look at this? I'll kick it over to you so you can.
I mean, I'm not buying one. This is. So the Oculus was one nice thing I'm buying for myself.
Yeah.
This is the year of frugality. I'm saving up for a down payment on a house this year. I want to be able to put a down payment on a house next year. So
I was just sending it to you to look at it.
I know. I'll look at it. I'm not
forcing you to buy it.
I know, but I'll check it out. It looks cool. I'm just saying, I gotta.
Now the digital portion of it, I got in right away when they started the funding, so I got mine already. There's quite a few people that haven't yet, and you can kind of tell that they haven't been putting a lot in the app for the digital version yet, because there's not a lot of people that have them yet. But they're slowly rolling out more and more features for the digital version. They're pretty feature rich for the standard version right now, and there's not a lot of features for something that you can just change the light on. But they do have some cool gradient features where it'll scroll different colors behind the sign and stuff like that. So it's a fun little thing, I like it. So, and it serves a purpose. They also have a button that you can get for turning them on and off remotely. So, if you have the standard Busybox that you can't change the sign on, but it's outside your office or outside studio or something like that, you can just hit a button on your desk to turn it on and off.
Yeah, just
so
a Bluetooth button.
yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, I suppose we can wrap up the show for the week. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the good people that listen to our show?
No, just, thanks for hanging out and listening, and appreciate it. Hope you guys are all well, staying safe.
It's good stuff. And if you want to know more about us or check out our back catalog, you can find us at innerdialogue.show. You can also find me at mitchcraig.online. If you want to check out my socials or check out the blog that I don't post to very often. Cam, they can find you at cambrennan.com, correct?
Yes.
All right. So check us out there. If you do have questions for us, please hit us up on socials, and we'll get back to you. And hopefully we can get some stuff to do on the show, because that would be fun. Do a little follow-up, do some questions, whatever. But it'd be good to hear from you guys. So, all right. Well, Cam, it's been fun. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
You have a good one.